Hi, my name is Ann Kostecki, and I want to share with you my new holiday show layout.
I wanted to talk today about something cool. I did a holiday show recently and I worked really hard on it, and I wanted to do something different this year because it had been a while since I did a holiday show. So I kind of did something totally different in that I decided not to bring my pro panels and not to have any original artwork for sale at all. Why did I do this? Usually, what I'm known for is original artwork, and that's what I do. But I also kind of have like another part of my business that is more art product focused. My prints, my stickers, my notebooks, temporary tattoos. I have tote bags. I have things printed with my artwork that are more like an affordable option for people who like my art but don't have the money for an original because they take a long time and I price them as such. So, anyway, I was thinking since this was more of a holiday pop up show, what might be more intelligent for me was to focus on the more affordable items and my handmade books too. I decided to totally revamp my indoor setup for the specific holiday show, and it worked really well. So, I'm going to get into exactly what I did. Okay, so when did I start this whole process? When I got invited to do the holiday show, it was early November, I believe, and I had no idea what I wanted to do yet. But I knew that I had an 8 by 8 foot footprint, which, if you are familiar with doing art shows, fairs, markets, usually you have a 10 by 10 foot space. And if you're doing an outdoor show, you have a canopy tent, and that is the amount of space you have to work with. You can't go outside of that. Occasionally, you can have storage on the outside of your booth. 8 by 8 is significantly smaller. And unfortunately, my pro panels, where I hang a lot of my original artwork, are about 36 inches wide. So you could only put two on any given side. And then they would just have an opening on not completing the square. So to me, that kind of bothers me a little bit as a perfectionist. So it not laying out correctly and having it kind of awkwardly put two on a side or one and one on a side, I decided to completely do away with that. Another factor to consider is that these pro panels are very large and they take up a lot of space in my car. And when I was doing the layout of how much I can fit in my car, in my vehicle, which is not a particularly large vehicle, to get there and back without having to take two cars, which I normally have to do when I do an outdoor show. So my goal was don't use the pro panels, try to fit everything you can in your car. And it is easier without the original artwork because the original artwork is larger and I have to wrap it. I have to bubble wrap it. I have to put blankets on it. I have to fit it a certain way so it doesn't get damaged. And that ends up taking a lot of space too. So it ended up working out really well for me. So when I first started having nightmares about how was I going to lay this out, I this is what I had to think about. I have one 8 foot table, one 6 foot table, one 4 foot table, and I had just bought a roughly 26-inch wide multi shelved folding shelf display item. I had like a freestanding bookshelf, some other display items, including a tiered display, two A-frame displays that fit about six 8 by 10 prints, and a sticker pegboard display, among other things. Something else I wanted to add new to this layout was a price sign. Normally I have smaller price signs that are less obtrusive. They take up a little amount of space. They're little plastic signs, but I wanted to have a larger sign that had all of my items on it so people could refer to that. So when I was considering the layout, I did some research. I Googled online, I looked at artist blogs, I looked at TikTok and Instagram to see what other artists had done. And unfortunately, I didn't see a lot specifically with the 8 by 8 foot layout. I had seen that at the 10 by 10 foot, a lot of artists had said the Z layout works really well because it allows people to come from multiple angles and to like not obtrusively look at your offerings. But with my current list of supplies, it was kind of difficult for me to figure out a Z layout, specifically since I wanted to use my 8-foot table. And if I use my 8-foot table, it would completely block a side. So after many sleepless nights of trying to figure out how am I going to lay this out, I had a dream where I was like, this is the one. I would take my 6-foot table, my 4-foot table, and then my shelf, and I would use that to form a Z, and then I would be behind that. And it ended up working out really well, and I still had a little bit of room for my freestanding bookshelf to put my handmade books on. So I played around with that, and you can see in my garage layout how I had it laid out. I would move things around, and honestly, this is my number one piece of advice if you are thinking of starting shows or markets is take some time to set it up either in your garage or in your yard or even in your studio, anywhere that you have space. Lay it out, lay up your stuff, see how it looks, see how much room you have. Because even if you have the dimensions of every single item in your inventory, it looks different when you put it up. I promise you. Sometimes things you think you'll have a little bit of extra space with, you have no space. Or if you think you have enough depth on a table, you'll end up putting something that obstructs something else behind it. Or just consider it from your customer's point of view. If there's a bunch of items in front of a bunch of other items, if there are multiple people shopping, then if one person wants to look at one thing and another person is blocking them, you could potentially lose a sale because of the obstructions of the items in their way. So I always consider that when I'm doing a layout too, is there stuff in the way? Is there stuff that's not really available that could be available in this area? Like flow is important. What's out there is important. And what would make your customer have a great shopping experience? Okay, so once I had my Z layout figured out, I had to decide what goes where. Now, originally I bought that bookshelf. I was going to display my books on that, but it actually ended up having a lot more room on it than I originally anticipated, and it ended up being even better to show my prints off. Now, unfortunately, I didn't know how to have my prints freestanding. The space was about 12 inches. My prints are about 10 inches high. Then I found some of these freestanding plastic, they're for like baseball cards, freestanding displays. And those ended up working okay. Probably, in my opinion, not the best just because they're a little flimsy and lightweight. My prints are like just heavy enough to sit on the display, but I kind of had to weigh a few of them down with paper clips or like binder clips so that they could stay securely down. And if someone bumped into it, it didn't fall off or fly off, which honestly was a little bit of a concern. But since it was an indoor show, I didn't have to worry about wind. So that was great. I had decided to put my books on my freestanding shelf. I had a pegboard that I specifically cut down to size, that I got some wooden blocks specifically designed to hold them up. And that would be for my stickers. And that ended up working really well. I will say though, it is super annoying to put all of my stickers. I have 21 different designs on those little shelves. That takes time. There's really nothing I can do, no shortcut for that. So like you just have to spend the time doing that one. I had my sign just printed from a local sign shop. It was vinyl on, I think, PVC. And I actually used more sign holders for that, the same wooden ones I used for the pegboard. That ended up taking a little bit more space than I anticipated. I probably would lay it out a little bit differently next time, but now I know. I brought what I call my 5x7 spinner, which is a card display. And that shows off all of my stationery, including my Christmas cards, which I'm happy to say did almost sell out at that last show. I had one specific set of cards that did sell out, which is great. And I had a print that almost sold out as well. I have a local market that I do, and a couple of my prints are specifically focused on the local area. I'm in St. Louis, and I usually make sure to display that one on my A-frame print display, and it catches people's eye, let me tell you. Another thing you should consider is on your print display, if you're an artist, make sure those local specialties, the thing that you know your demographic loves, is front and center, very visible, high up, so that from many different vantage points, they can see that product. I know it helped me a lot in the specific holiday show. Another thing that I did just for this show is I got an over-the-table rod, which I can link to, and that is specifically for parties, events, etc. And I had seen a lot of artists utilize this to great effect. They would either display prints or cards, tote bags from it, and I decided to put a holiday garland around it. Unfortunately, with the 8-foot width, when I stacked the 6-foot and the 4-foot table, I couldn't get it high enough to actually display cards and tote bags without it getting in the way for my customers. So I decided to use it as a garland holiday festive display, and I think it made it look really nice. Something else I did for this show, I had some scrap fabric that was of poinsettias, and I sewed it into a table runner, which I put a wooden sign with my name written on it over to make it look a little bit more handmade and festive. The wooden sign was a process, but I think it looked really cool. I was happier with more of a handmade look than a vinyl printed. I'd had a vinyl printed banner, and honestly, it was so easily damaged and wrinkled, and I didn't really love the look of it. So I decided to make a new sign, and it ended up looking really cool. So that was cool. I also took the garland that I had wrapped on the over the table rod, and I used it to wrap around my bookshelf. I tried to, honestly, most of the time when I use holiday decorations, I use the ones that I already own and try to repurpose them for a holiday show. If you know me, I'm very thrifty. I don't like to buy items that I don't foresee myself using a lot for my business. So if there's something I can borrow from my house, I do that. I did have to buy a new fitted tablecloth for my 4-foot table, but it ended up looking really good. Everything was a consistent silvery gray color, which actually matches my pro panels. So sometimes when I do outdoor shows, I can repurpose the tablecloths. They match my pro panels. Everything looks uniform, and that makes me happy. And I think it really helps the display. So yeah, that is my whole process. I highly recommend, if you're doing a show, to think about doing a Z layout. I think that increased my sales. I think having more vertically oriented items, especially I know my big sellers, my local interests, eye level. I also think it helped me to have more branded signage. I had a price sign. I had a hand-painted sign. I had my business cards front and center, and like everything looked more cohesive. I had earlier this year painted all of my display items to be white so that they all matched, and it honestly makes me happier to see it. I know. So this is what I highly recommend if you're doing an indoor show. Set up your materials ahead of time. Play with them, lay them out, make sure nothing is hiding something, obscuring something. It's in way for your customers. Make sure that everything makes sense with where it's laid out. Make your prices clear. That's my advice. Some people don't like to. That's your choice. If you want to do that, I understand. I personally like it. Find some ways to incorporate festive decor, either repurposing something you already have. You can go to a thrift store. There is lots of Christmas stuff after the holidays at thrift stores or on clearance. Keep that in mind. Also consider your storage. I had tables at this indoor show, so everything was stored underneath the tables, which is so helpful. But also, if you do a Z-type layout, you can keep everything behind of you, your packaging, your checkout station, whatever you need, your food in some cases. So that also helps. And just know that everything is going to work out. If you're like me, when you do shows, sometimes they give you anxiety. Sometimes there's a lot of sleepless nights. You're afraid you're going to forget something. At least I am. I always make a list. Making a list is huge. It's key. Definitely make a list of everything you'll need. Make sure your Square or your Shopify checkout is fully charged. Make sure that there's a Wi-Fi network if you need it. And if not, you can tether to your phone or whatever you need to get internet service. Test things out if you must. Make sure all your packaging is there and you have enough in case you sell out of things. And make sure your inventory is ready to go and handpicked for that particular type of show. And also, don't forget to pack food, water, and snacks, or caffeine too if you need it. I always pack extra snacks. Even though a lot of the places provide snacks for you, you just never know. Just make sure you have it. Make sure there's gas in your car. Make sure everything fits in your car. And don't forget to have fun.
Thank you so much for watching. I'm still really new at editing video for YouTube. I hope this was really helpful, and if you have any questions, let me know in the comments.